Good evening. I'd like to, at this time, call into session the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee open meeting of Wednesday, April the 26th, 2017. On our agenda, we just have a slight change here. We were going to do the special recognition before the action on the minutes, but we're going to do that at the end, if that is okay with everyone. Since we have teachers that here making a presentation, we'd like to go on to that. But we'll go through the action in the minutes very quickly. So the first item we have is the action of the minutes of the open meeting of March 15th, 2017. Do I have a motion? Patty?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the open meeting minutes of the meeting of March 15th, 2017.
Second.
Second by Paul. Any further discussion, additions, corrections? Seeing there's none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And any abstentions? Kathy has one abstention. Thank you. The next one is the action on the combined meeting minutes of the executive session of April the 24th, 2013, executive session of June 15th, 2016, open meeting of September 21st, 2016, open meeting of December 21st, 2016, executive session of December 21st, 2016, open meeting of February 15th, 2017, and executive session of February 15th, 2017. Lynn?
I would like to make a motion to approve the open meeting minutes of September 21st, 2016, December 21st, 2016, February 15th, 2017, and vote to approve and retain the executive session meetings of April 24th, 2013, June 15th, 2016, December 21st, 2016, and February 15th, 2017.
Is there a second by Paul? Any further discussion? Patty?
Question on the executive session of February 15th, 2017. Even in the meeting minutes, it stipulates that there was not a quorum for the region. So if there was no quorum for the region, why would there need to be minutes and why would we need to vote on it?
I thought we had a quorum for that.
Was there a quorum?
And that
I don't
is
think we did.
On the 15th, there wasn't a quorum for the school committee meeting, I thought, but there was for executive session.
There was for executive session, you saying, Kathy, but not for the open session.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Wasn't
so.
that?
So,
When somebody had to leave?
She's right, I remember that as well.
Yeah.
You do, okay. Okay, Patty, does that answer your question?
I will abstain from both of those.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we have the motion on the table to approve open meeting minutes and to vote to approve and retain the executive session. All those in favor of the motion on the table? Okay, it is 1, 2, 3, 5, and abstaining, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Educational policy. Approval of art all-state overnight field trip at UMass Dartmouth for June 9th through the 10th, 2017. And the materials are inside your packets. Patty?
I'll move, we approve the Art All-State Overnight Field Trip at UMass Dartmouth, June 9th through 10th, 2017.
Second by Paul. Any discussion or questions? Patty?
Just quick question, how many students?
2 students.
And these were students that won by, it was an award, correct?
Sorry?
This is for an award, these students won. It
This
was,
is a recognition of those students, yes, who have great artistic potential, and we think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for them.
sounds like it, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion on the table for the overnight field trip? All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item we have is under new business is the class rank presentation. That will be done by the guidance department on proposed changes to the class rank practices in place of Algonquin.
Yes, Madam Chair, we had an outstanding presentation by members of the guidance department and also our student representative at our last superintendent's advisory meeting prior to our school committee meeting. And I think that everyone at the table and in the audience this evening will be quite pleased with the work that they have compiled, that they will be presenting this evening with respect to the current class rank practices and changes that they're proposing to make. One of the conversations we've always had is about the high level of stress that our students experience here at the high school. And one of the proposals, I think, will, at least from the students and from everyone else's perspective, perhaps go a long way in reducing that. I'd like to defer the rest of the conversation to Mr. Mead, who's been very much, as principal, obviously actively involved in this process, and I'm sure he can provide some overview prior to the actual presentation by the guidance department, which is outstanding, I might add.
Thank you, Superintendent Johnson. I would just really like to say that I think there's been a lot of discussion about this, and that's all been good, but what I'm very, very thankful for is the great research that's going to become evident as they go through the short presentation here. The great research that the guidance department did to verify and provide sufficient background to make a good decision on class rank. So I'd like to turn it over now to Lisa Connery, our Director of Guidance, and the rest of the staff.
Thanks.
Lisa?
How do we log in? We log in as ourselves?
Yes.
We log in as ourselves? I'm sorry.
Come on up, guys. Is that good, Kath? Okay. Okay, so we'll get the computer started up here. And it's saying that it's...
Every good presentation is worth waiting for. It builds up the excitement and anticipation. That's right.
I don't know.
And there's that magic sound of we're ready.
Make sure we're working here. All right, we'll just do it this way. Okay, so good evening. Thank you for your patience while we got the computer started up here. Seems like just a couple months ago we were here presenting regarding many of the current initiatives that we're offering in guidance. Our focus when we came in January was really around the social emotional well-being of our students, and this is just one more extension of, you know, our work around supporting, like both Chris and Tom said, you know, the stress and the anxiety that we are seeing in our students. And so this evening I have with me Andrea Hotchkin, Pam Mackey, Jason Lassard, Kate Mulcahy, and our student Ryan Strobel, correct? All right, great. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to share with you some of the work that we've done around rank, and so our purpose for undertaking this was to examine how class rank impacts students academically, emotionally, and we also wanted to look at its influence on the college admissions process. So our reasoning for this was we really wanted to, one, focus on the social emotional issues. I've already mentioned the stress and the anxiety. We wanted to look at how this could possibly decrease competitiveness among our students. We also wanted to see how eliminating class rank would maybe encourage our students to explore alternative course offerings. Instead of simply looking at courses, you know, based on the weight and its impact that it might have on their overall rank, instead exploring courses for their passion and their interests. We wanted to see if rank anyway limits students' opportunities in the college acceptance process. And so we were finding that, in fact, yes, it does, that, when a school reports an exact rank or a decile rank, some colleges will have very distinct cutoffs. So for students who do not fall within that range, then that is, a deciding factor within the admissions process. By eliminating the class rank, it is our hope to encourage admissions counselors to take a more holistic approach in the reading of our students' applications, because as we know, Algonquin is a very rigorous high school, and many of our students are well prepared to go off to the most selective colleges. You will find at Algonquin, when we were looking at some of the data, when we looked at like a grade distribution chart, you could be a student earning all Bs in honors level courses or straight A's in CP courses and be in the middle of the class. And if you're in all honors level courses and earning B's, that's a rigorous course load, as well as straight A's in college prep level courses. So we were finding that, despite our students doing quite well, rank was actually hindering them. All right, so what did we do in this process? We reviewed our current rank policy. We investigated issues associated with reporting rank, such as with college admissions. We surveyed students, faculty, parents. We went into Naviance and we used the database in Naviance to identify schools where we're sending the most number of applications off to. We wanted to make sure that when we reached out to the colleges that we were targeting many of the schools that we would be sending a high number of applications off to. So we sent out over surveys to over 100 colleges. We heard back from 73 of the colleges and universities that we reach out to with our survey regarding rank and its impact in the admissions process. We also reviewed the practices of 20 comparable high schools. So our current rank policy, I also put a copy in the folder that I provided to everybody, is based on a weighted grade point average. I'm going to flip to the next slide really quick because this kind of outlines how grades are weighted here at Algonquin. So you could see that depending on the level of course that you're taking and the grade that you earn in the course actually determines the weight of your GPA. So all of the courses in grades 9 to 12 are actually calculated into a student's GPA. We currently report rank for the first time in the middle of junior year. One of the practices that we recently changed a few years ago was actually the dissemination of GPA. We used to wait and release GPA until the middle of junior year at the same time that we released the rank. We made the decision for students because we would find that students were also were suddenly surprised by their rank and by their GPA, their rank and their GPA. So we began releasing GPA at the end of every school year. The reason we did that was we wanted to encourage self-reflection with our students. So they could see at the end of freshman year, how am I doing? Am I satisfied with my overall performance? Are there any changes that I would like to make? It was based more on self-reflection than competitiveness. And so then and then at the end of sophomore year we release it, and then we don't, and then we release rank at the middle of junior year. So we currently report rank to colleges, and it is an exact rank that we report to the colleges. And that exact rank appears on the student's transcript that we send off to colleges. So that's just a quick overview of the steps that we took and our current rank policy. And right now we're going to hear from the counselors regarding their work around the student survey, parent feedback, as well as admissions feedback.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pam Mackey. So we sent out a survey last April, and we sent it out to students and parents and teachers also. We sent it out to all 4 grades. We heard back from 526 of our students. So you can see the grade level responses. Sorry. There we go. All right. You can see the grade level responses. More of the upperclassmen responded because they're more aware of the effect that rank has on the culture of Algonquin. So we had more 12th, 11th, and 10th graders with only 16.7 ninth graders responding. Again, the numbers are pretty close. It's about 28.3 for grade 12, 28.7 for grade 11, and 26.2 for grade 10 with only 16.7 for grade 9. This is, okay. So we pulled some of the major questions and themes that we found in the survey, and we included them. So what we asked students was, do you feel pressured to achieve a high class rank? And we had 78.5 students say yes, and 21.5 say no. They did not feel that. I don't think so. I think it's just messing me up. All right, we also asked if class rank had a positive or negative impact on school culture. Again, this was to the students. 16.9 students felt that it had no impact. And again, a lot of the students that we heard from were freshmen and weren't aware of the school culture. When we had 62.5 students say that it was a negative impact, so that's a significantly higher number, and 20.5 say that it had a positive impact. So before I go into the feedback from students, because we did have a lot of comments, we went through every single one of the comments, and we identified major themes. We have invited one of my students, Ryan, to speak a little bit about his feelings about rank, and then I'm going to jump in after and kind of highlight the themes that we received from the students.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a current junior at Algonquin, and this past fall I received my class rank. From being at Algonquin for the past 3 years, I feel that class rank has definitely impacted the environment of coming to school and learning as a whole. This year when I received my class rank, there was a lot of talk about what my rank was, what other people's rank was, and a lot of comparison. And I know every year when course selection comes out, there's definitely a lot of discussion about, should I take this AP class or should I take this honors class, and how that's going to affect individuals' class rank. And I feel that if class rank was turned into something different that the guidance counselors have proposed, I think the environment at Algonquin can definitely change and be more focused on learning as opposed to statistics and our grade point averages and class rank. I know personally for myself there are a lot of classes like electives such as photography or art and things like that that I would like to take but are only offered at the CP level, and I know that that will affect my class rank and ultimately affect where I could potentially go to college, and that's definitely discouraging as a student.
Thank you. All right, so from the students that we spoke to that felt it had a positive impact, and again, that was 20.5%, their feedback was healthy competition. They felt that they were motivated to do better in classes, and they also felt that it encouraged students to challenge themselves academically. The students that felt a negative impact felt pressure. They felt pressure from themselves, their fellow students, their parents, the school environment as a whole, stress and anxiety, which is something that we discuss a lot in guidance, the social emotional piece of this. Eliminating passion. So Ryan spoke a little bit about not wanting to take Art 1. Art 1 CP, we only have Art 1 CP, we don't have an honors Art 1. So it does deter some students from taking that course. I've also had students in the past opt to drop music to pick up an AP course because they know that the grade that they get in the AP course has a higher weight, which then gives them a higher rank. So it eliminates passion. Like with the arts and with music. Nastiness towards fellow classmates. Now this was very interesting. Not only, as Ryan was saying, are students having conversations, what's your rank? Oh, your rank isn't as high as mine. There's also competitiveness that goes on in the classroom where sometimes students that are within the top 10% won't actually help each other out. And there's no collaboration because they're worried that one little point will put that student's rank above theirs. All right, I'm going to pass it on to Andrea.
So I'm Andrea Hotchkin. So we sent this same survey out to our teachers, and we have just over 100 classroom teachers, and with 75 responses, I think that's a pretty high response rate. And these teachers, they're not just checking yes or no to these surveys, they actually sat down, took time to provide some very meaningful feedback, which I will be going over with you. All right, so they were asked same types of questions. When they were asked if students feel pressure to have a high class rank, 97.3% said that yes, based on their observations, the students seemed to feel pressure to achieve that high rank. Only 2.7% of the teachers felt otherwise. Then when asked about the impact on our school climate, 82.7%, so an overwhelming majority, said that class rank has a negative impact. Only 9.3% felt it has a positive impact, and 8% saw no impact. So as Pam just went through the feedback we had gotten from the students, we have very similar feedback from the teachers. In terms of those who saw the positive impact, they commented that rank is a reflection of life after high school, competition leads to better results, and they see rank as a motivating factor. But then when we looked at the responses from the teachers who view rank as a negative impact, they shared, as you can see, a lot of the similar concerns that the students did. So Pam just talked about the nastiness towards the fellow classmates, and the teachers are observing that it undermines the culture of collaboration. So teachers have made reference to students who are sabotaging each other in their classes. So that might be something as simple as just giving a wrong answer to one of their classmates, and these might be their good friends, actually. Rank can have a negative impact on self-esteem, lowering that sense of self-worth, while also increasing that self-esteem for those students who have the higher rank. Rank can negatively impact the learning experience. So when students are so focused on making a particular grade, it undermines the process of real learning and gets in the way of students gaining the most knowledge and enjoyment out of their courses. Going along with this, teachers commented that many students select their courses based on what the impact would have on the rank versus taking classes that they're more passionate about. So this Pam just talked about, and so did Ryan. But each year in guidance, I think we all see more and more students steering away from taking those classes that they are interested in. And when I ask them, you know, what's the reason that you're doing this? Common answer is I'm, taking this particular course will give me a better GPA, which in turn will give me a higher class rank. So while we encourage our students to all take a balanced schedule, to pursue their interests and explore their options, they still see rank as rank, and it's a number. Many teachers stated that class rank leaves students with no room for error. So it's as if in the students' minds, they can't make mistakes because that one mistake could cost them what that rank might be. And as a result, students will often go back to their teachers and they may try to negotiate more points or argue the grading scale or the rubric. And in today's world, that's something that's become known as grade grubbing. So you can see. Yeah, sorry. So basically, I actually looked that up because grade grubbing was a term when I first started here, I heard that. I'd never heard that before. But basically, grade begging, grade lawyering, but really arguing for those extra points. And I think we're seeing more and more of this because of the pressure that students have and their beliefs that grades mean everything. So I'm going to pass this on to Kate, and she's going to go through the parent responses.
So we sent a similar survey to parents, and we had 399 parents respond. So we were just one shy of that even 400, but that's okay. So one of the questions that we asked was, does your student feel pressure to achieve a higher class rank? And 67.4% of parents believe their student does feel pressure to achieve a higher class rank. We asked, what they believe their impact on school culture was with the rank. And 47% of parents believe rank does have a negative impact on the school culture. And several parents who responded said that they were parents of freshmen, so they were a little unsure about the impact of rank on their students at this time or on the school culture because their students had not received a rank or even their GPA at the time this survey was sent out. So that might explain some of the higher no impact choices here. We also went through the feedback and we read through all the comments that the parents left in our survey, and we also split them up into the positive and negatives. So some of the positive comments, again, 29.8% of parents do believe rank is a positive thing because of real world experience. They believe it provides motivation for students. It's also their perception of college acceptance, so parents perceive that the class rank does impact college admissions decisions, but several parents replied that by eliminating class rank, it would hurt the students in the admissions process, which is actually a misconception, and Jason's going to talk about that in a minute. Parents also believe that class rank provides healthy competition. It's a way for students to differentiate themselves, and it's also, a way for students to be recognized by their class rank. In the negative camp, with 46.7% parents responding that class rank is a negative thing. Again, stress and pressure on their students. The negative self-perception of those students who were ranked higher in the class. So, they're still great students, but when they get that class rank back, and it might be a little bit higher than they thought it would be because they're still performing well in their classes, they might see themselves as a little bit more negatively. They might not see themselves as a great student anymore, so there's that negative self-perception. It creates unhealthy competition, and again, their students are taking courses for the wrong reasons. Parents believe that it only benefits the top-ranking students, and they see it as inequitable, so more affluent families can afford tutors. And they also acknowledge the pressure placed on teachers from a grading perspective, so there's that grade grubbing again. So kind of negotiating and students asking for a couple points higher so they can receive that A- instead of the B+, which ultimately affects their GPA and then their class rank. So that was the feedback from the parents. And now Jason will talk about the factors in admissions decisions.
So the vast majority of our students go on to college. So we want to make sure we did our due diligence, we did some research, and we wanted to see what impact rank has on the admissions decision. So we really looked at three areas. The first area was we looked from the admissions counselor point of view. The second was we looked at the high schools, what are the other high schools doing? And last, we sent a survey to 100 colleges, as Lisa mentioned, of the most popular schools that Algonquin students apply to. And out of those 100, 73 responded. So first, we'll look at the National Association for College Admissions Counseling and what they had to say. So they said the importance of class rank in college admissions has declined significantly since 1993. Now, if you look at this, back in 1993, rank was considered considerable importance of 42%. And now, in 2014, it was only ranked at 14%. So it went down quite a bit. And then if we look at the data over here, you can quickly take a look at all the different factors of the admissions decisions. And you can quickly ascertain that looking at this, the single most important thing for all colleges is going to be the transcript. That's what they're really going to be looking at. Oops, sorry. Now, as far as feedback, so of the 73 schools that got back to our survey, they said overwhelmingly omitting class rank does not have a negative impact on student acceptance. They also said, they reiterated the same point, transcripts are the most important factor in the admissions decisions. And the majority of colleges and universities will focus on other elements of the student's profile. So they'll look at our students more holistically. They'll look at all the things that they're doing at school, all the clubs they're involved in, all the different types of classes they're in. And then one of the questions we asked was, does having a class rank make a difference in the admissions process? So 89% of the schools said no. And just to list a few of the schools that said no, were Bentley, BC, BU, Brown, Bucknell, Drexel, Harvard, JMU, Lehigh, Providence, UMass, UConn, Delaware, Lafayette, Duke, Quinnipiac, Michigan, Babson, Holy Cross, McGill, MIT, and Syracuse, and obviously on and on and on. So the next question we asked was, does not reporting class rank negatively impact a student's opportunity for a scholarship? And 89% no, said no. So we wanted to follow up on that with the 11%. So we talked to the admissions counselors from the 11%, and what they told us was, well, there's actually a way around it. So in our letters of recommendation, we can actually point out and say a statement like, at Algonquin Regional High School, we do not report rank, but if we were to, Johnny would be in the top 10% of his class. Or Johnny would be ranked #1 in the school. And from that point of view, that is sufficient, and now those students are eligible for those scholarships. So that's something our guidance department would obviously practice going forward. So then, Lisa's actually going to talk about some of the school perspectives here, other high schools.
Thank you, Jason. So this is where it got interesting when we began to look at what are some of the other schools doing in the area. And so we needed to try to find a starting point of schools to consider that we felt were comparable. So we reached out and we said, let's go up with the Best of Boston list, even though they excluded us geographically, and we weren't too thrilled about that, right? We still thought that they were a pretty good gauge, and a lot of the schools that we found on this list we feel are comparable to Algonquin. So when we began to research what their rank policy is, we realized that of the top 25 schools listed in Best of Boston, only one of them currently reports rank, and that is Georgetown High School. So all of these other very high-performing schools are not reporting rank. And so one of the things that we did, so as we were going through this process, this is where it got really interesting. We were looking at all of these schools, we were looking at their policies, and I got an email from a senior admissions counselor at Holy Cross. And that admissions counselor extended an invitation to myself and a couple other counselors to come and join them for an admissions decision day. And so I said, absolutely, we would love to come. Because that's like, oh my God, the insider, take on this. We were going to go inside the room, And so Andrea and Jason came along with me. And we spent the day at Holy Cross with their senior admissions counselor. And I think you guys would both agree with me, it's probably one of the best days from a professional development standpoint, from a college admissions standpoint, that I've had in years. And he really provided us with some fantastic feedback. And so, of course, we shared with him because we had some time in his office, and we had a very nice conversation with him. And I did a few things. I gave him our profile and said, hey, what do you think of our school profile? Could we make some changes? So he gave us some great feedback on that, of course, we'll put in place for our profile next year. But one of the best conversations that we had with him was around rank. So, I shared with him that we were currently going through the process of, reconsidering our policy on class rank. And one of the things that he said, are you guys aware of the fact that you're probably the top performing high school in Massachusetts that still reports rank? I said, really? And he said, yeah. He goes, most of the top performing schools in Massachusetts no longer report rank. And he said, and the reason they do not report rank is because it really disadvantages their students. So we heard from some of our parents about how, it allows certain students to stand out. So we have a small percentage of kids who might be at the top of a class at Algonquin. But who it's really hurting are those kids that are just beyond that. Our kids who are in all honors level courses or AP courses and getting B's and earning a 4.0, who are more than capable of going off and, performing very well at a lot of these selective schools, but because we're reporting an exact rank, and if a school is using a cutoff, we are actually disadvantaging our kids in the admissions process. And I was like, that is interesting. So then he says to me, if your principal called me right now on the phone and said, oh, hey, what do you think of class rank, and what do you think about, grade distribution charts, I would say to him, that's awesome. Why? Because it makes my job easier. Because when we're reading all of these applications, right, I can do a quick little look. If there's a cutoff, you're out, I can move on to the next because I have thousands of applications. He said, but if I was to walk in tomorrow to your building and become your new school principal, the first thing I would do would be to eliminate the reporting of any class rank, because Algonquin Regional High School is too high performing of a high school to be reporting any rank. And so, I mean, would you guys agree? I mean, it was that powerful of a statement coming from a senior admissions counselor at Holy Cross. And so for us, what that really did was confirm that we were actually on the right path, that a lot of these other high schools that have already eliminated rank did so for a reason, because they too believe that their school is a rigorous high school, that they're preparing their students well, and that their students are capable of going off to these selective schools. And they want each and every one of their kids to have an opportunity. They want the admissions counselors to read them holistically. So we really enjoyed that visit, and the information that he provided to us was very powerful. So, of course, we are proposing a change in our current rank policy. We spend a lot of time in the guidance office, like the counselors have said, talking with students about their passions and their interests, and, balancing their course load, and, recognizing them for their strengths, reminding them that we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses and we all have things that we're good at. And we go through all of this because, they're young. They're still growing, they're still developing, and we really think it's important to kind of mold them, develop them, and foster their self-esteem. And then we turn around and slap them with a nice number in the middle of the forehead. And it's kind of a little counterintuitive to what we want to encourage within our students, So, and like I said, for a lot of these students to all of a sudden be working so hard, maybe be a captain of a team, maybe you're the editor for Harbinger, and all of a sudden you're 180 in the class, and 180 in the class at Algonquin is very different from some of these other high schools. So currently, the high schools that are reporting rank, according to our friend at Holy Cross, are the schools where maybe they're not sending as many students off to college, and they feel very strongly that rank will help get some of their top kids into those more selective schools. So they're doing it to try to push and promote those top few kids, where a school like Algonquin has so many students that it's hindering us. So what we're proposing is that we no longer report rank to students or to colleges, and that the class rank will not be reported on a student's transcript. Only the GPA will be recorded. And we would like to begin this process with the class of 2019, which is our current sophomore class. And the reason we've selected them is because, of course, at this point in time we have, sorry Ryan, at this point in time we have not reported any class rank to them. So we would like to start right away with this process, because we do know that in the long run it will benefit our students. And so this is what we're proposing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And do we have questions, or can we answer questions?
I'm sure there might be questions as soon as the board members get back.
Get back to their seats. We'll get our...
But doesn't the GPA work the same way? Reporting that to the colleges, they have cutoffs, with that too, right?
Well, when
Is
you
it that
just
much different?
Well, when you're just reporting a GPA, they don't necessarily know where that student falls among their peers. When you go and say, this student is number 1 and this student is number 100, then they know for sure. But if you're not reporting anything, then they actually have to go through and they have to assess the transcript, and they have to look at the rigor of the courses that the student has taken, how they've performed in those. They have to then go and look at their essay, read their recommendations. What kind of activities were they involved in? Because you could easily have a student who is maybe, ranked 50, 60 in the class, but, who really is a true leader on our campus and has done some wonderful, wonderful things. So they're going to go and say, okay, rigor, the student meets the criteria for our school, they're performing well in their classes, here's their, scores on their AP exams, stuff like that. And then they're going to go and look at them more holistically from a recommendation standpoint, as well as, what kind of activities that they've been involved in, and are they a leader on our campus. So no, they won't necessarily know where they fall within their peers.
Paul?
So we had an academic rigor subcommittee a bunch of years ago that when we tore this thing apart. And I think the chase for the precise number, was always something that we kind of thought we should do away with, and maybe talk about bands, or, top 5%, top 25%, or something like that. The whole issue about, well, they're taking the wrong courses, or they're not taking courses they're passionate about because they're chasing rank. I would suggest they're not taking courses that they're passionate about because they're chasing GPA as well. I mean, still band is better to chase than drama, as an example, which is just, one's an honors class, it's, and drama's CP, and that's that. I mean, and it's, so I think you haven't fixed that problem by doing this. And you only fix that when an A is an A is an A, whether it's CP or honors or AP. And I don't know that we're quite there yet, but I kind of applaud the idea. I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's going to make all your concerns that you came up with go away.
No, and we would agree, Paul.
If I could, one other question. We had talked, a nice long list of the 89% of the colleges that don't care about rank in terms of either admissions or scholarships. You got a list of the 11% who do. I mean, is that, do we have that somewhere?
We could definitely provide it. We could definitely provide it. We don't have it with us, but we could definitely provide it. Yes.
Because, depending on who they are, I mean, that might be material to us as well. It would be interesting to know.
Yes. We can provide that to you.
Thanks.
But I agree with you. It will not eliminate all of the stress that students place upon themselves. And we're going to continue to have students, very high-performing students making choices around courses, based on, the level and the rigor of the course. Absolutely, I agree with you. What we're hoping to do is also, those kids are those kids. And right now, our policy is not hindering those kids. Who's it's hindering is the kids behind them. So it's all of those kids that fall past the 10%, who are still viable candidates for many of these selective schools, but because of the exact rank policy, and if they have a cutoff point, they're being cut off instead of holistically reviewed. So you're right, those kids some of those students are still going to be doing that, but our hope is to open the door for all of these other students to have the option to be read more holistically and maybe have different admissions decisions made for them.
The other thing we heard in that, if I could continue,
Sure.
in that rigor subcommittee from years ago, is that a lot of the colleges, even though we send along the GPA, recalc it, getting out a lot of the, so you're all nodding, so they still do that?
Yep.
And then that led us to okay, do we come up with two ranks? One for the rank for just the straight academic stuff, and then the other that kind of includes it all. Did you guys go through that whole exercise as well? Did you go there too?
We haven't gone through it, but it's all still in IPASS. All the weighted and the core GPA and everything, it's all still in there from when you guys went through that.
That's still left over from that committee. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, I read an article in the New York Times a while back about the percentage nationwide of schools that do this, and they mentioned it was like around 40% right now. So
that eliminate rank? That have eliminated rank?
Yes.
Well, one important thing that that the admissions counselor at Holy Cross did mention to us, that the private schools, they don't report rank on their kids. And the reason they don't is because they feel that the caliber of student that they have at their school is such that they are capable of going to any selective school and performing perfectly fine. And so the admissions counselor said, my advice would, I would hope that people would be striving, towards that. So many of the private high schools and the high-performing schools in Massachusetts, don't report rank for that very reason, to open up more doors and more options to all of their students. So it would be interesting, while it's 40% in the country, it would be interesting to see, is it a higher percentage within this area? You know, because if you're looking at the entire country, you know, some people might not be at the point where maybe Massachusetts is at, you know, in their percentage. What's that?
I said it's very interesting information.
It is, yeah, it is.
Lynn, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I just was, I think it's a great idea, and I applaud you for pursuing this, because although it doesn't eliminate the things that the GPA necessarily produces itself, you know, I just have seen too many, like, instances where it's divisive amongst, you know, so many anecdotally, so many stories of things that, you know, and it does affect the people at the top, like the top, within that top 10, jockeying for position, and then also, you know, the issue with the colleges, of us having a top school now, all of a sudden, where otherwise the students' grades and GPA or whatever would seem like they would qualify in their SAT or whatever, but now they see this number, you know, 200 out of 400 something, you know, and, you know, that's disconcerting, that would put our students at a disadvantage, and we should be getting rid of that. Any disadvantages we're giving our kids should go away.
Absolutely.
I vote.
And I mean, I think rank, you know, quantifies our kids. And, you know, what we really want to be focused on is personal best. And that looks different for every student, you know, and, you know, how can we support that and promote that, you know, while kids are developing and maturing and growing and figuring out who they are and, you know, where they belong and what they want in life. And, you know, and along the way, it also opens up more doors for them, which I think is fantastic.
Patty?
Just want to thank the members of the guidance department and the committee, and Ryan for being here tonight with your fantastic presentation. I appreciate all the work that you've done and for coming out tonight. And I would have made the suggestion earlier, but things need to happen as they should, and you're doing it the right way, and I appreciate all the work you're doing for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christine?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So I learned new terms like grade grubbing, and I think we exchanged some laughter there for a moment. So you can tell when you've been out of the classroom too long to appreciate what that actually meant. Just really want to applaud, again, the guidance department for working so collaboratively and so passionately to pursue ways that will help to reduce the stress level of our students. While this may not be the panacea for all of the conversations that we've had over the years about you know, reducing the stress or presenting our students appropriately and more effectively to colleges through the admissions process. I think any step that we can take in that direction to make students feel more comfortable and relaxed in pursuing their educational experience here will yield positive results, not only in terms of their overall GPA, but in how they view their experience on school property and in their classes. I know Max has, hello Max, you just joined us, this has been something that he's spoken very specifically and favorably for the 4 years, he's a senior now, that he's been on the Superintendent's Advisory Council. And I think one of the things that was most important for me to hear was the comment made by not only Ryan, but the other members of the Superintendent's Advisory Committee, which was, how do you feel? Do you think this will have an impact? Do you feel that as a member of the student body, this will help in some way feel that the students are less stressed on the day-to-day? And it was like, absolutely. And so for no other reason, I think it's a good step in the right direction. It may not be the answer to all of our concerns, but it is a way that might help that. So congratulations, I think you did a great job. I also just want to, because we're talking about the handbook a little bit later today on the agenda, this evening on the agenda, we do not specifically have a policy about class rank. We have a policy only about class standing, which talks about the number of credits that one has to accumulate to pass from grade to grade in that standing. So it's nice that there's a window of opportunity to continue the conversation. And so the only policy piece is the approval of language when it goes into the handbook. And so at this point, that we would be taking that up again today. So great. And I also want to celebrate Mr. Mead's work around this issue. We mentioned earlier that first and foremost, what is most important to him throughout his principalship has been what's in the best interest of our students. And I know you've been an advocate for this kind of conversation for some time and really have supported the work of the guidance counselors and the enthusiasm of the students for making some sort of change. So,
Thank you. But I still think we have yet more opportunities to continue to address stress and to get it to a much more appropriate level for more of our students. So the work goes on.
yes, it does. Thankfully so.
And Lisa, I'd like to thank you also and your staff and the student representative for everything that you've done. This data collection age, I think you've hit all the interest groups that had to be represented. And like you say, when you went to Holy Cross and actually spoke to them and to hear about it. But, it was very concise and detailed. No questions at all, and your presentation was fabulous. And the number of hours that it took for all of you to discuss it, put the surveys together, and then look at the data, and then put it into some form. I just have one question, because I believe one of the members of speaking tonight talked about that if you don't report it, the class rank, to the college, you would say if they're number one in the class or if they were in the top 10% of the class. So are you looking at a standard that you would do? Would it be the top 10%? Would it be, do you take the class and would it be the fifths, like, the top fifth of the class, the second fifth of the class? Have you given any thought to that on that statement that you would give? How would you report where that student was in the ranking?
We would simply write it into our letter, so we have. And so the biggest thing that we heard from the admissions counselors was really, it wasn't as much about top 10% as it was 1 and 2, valedictorian, salutatorian. And so we would not report that, to the students. We would simply write, like Jason had indicated in our letter, that if, Algonquin does not, rank students, if we were, then I think he said Johnny would be, ranked number 1 in the class. So by simply putting that in there, that alleviated the concerns, and it was primarily around scholarships, is what it was. It was around, so when we were looking at it, that 11%, we're like, why are they saying this is an issue? And it was around scholarships. Okay. And, there were a few schools in there, like Nichols, that were saying, like, we have a really big scholarship that we give to the number 1 kid in the class. And so we were like, oh, okay. So for us, it wasn't a lot of the high-performing schools, like we indicated, were saying, no, it's not an issue, because many of those schools are accepting students from all of the selective private schools, from a lot of the top, 25 best of Boston, right? Mm-hmm. Their students are going to those schools, so it was not an issue for them, but we did talk about how we would write that, incorporate that into our letter. And we will make sure, if this policy moves forward, that as a team, that we're consistent in how we're handling that.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? All right, thank you very much.
All right, well, before we go, we just, we were told we were having cake tonight. And Jason was so excited. We have 3 guys in our department. They hear food, and it's like, oh, my goodness. But we heard they were having cake because a couple members were going to be maybe retiring. Yeah. Right? So we just wanted to express our gratitude for your commitment to Algonquin and the school committee and our students and our community. And so, Barbara and Dave, we wanted to thank you for all of your hard work with our committee. We truly appreciate, your part. And Patty, we hear that you're leaving the regional district, but we just wanted to just say thank you for all you've done for our community, and maybe Jason will hang around for cake. I don't know. Okay. All right? So thank you very much, and we appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do for everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nicely done.
Thank you. And you guys can stay around for the cake.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave some slices behind, okay?
Yeah, I was going to suggest
For
that.
breakfast tomorrow morning. The next item under new business is review of town meetings.
Budget's passed unanimously, and part of the reason isn't just the work, I think, that takes place around budgeting process, but it's because of the kinds of presentations that we see this evening from the guidance department, and the good work that takes place each and every day. Our communities believe in the work that we do, and I think that the teachers do in our classrooms and the administration in our schools each and every day. And I think that is a big reason, not just because the budgets may be presented well and are fitting into the town's prescribed formulas, and because we're educationally sound and fiscally responsible, but rather because they have confidence and they believe, as we do, that the educational experience we provide for all of our students is just top-notch, outstanding, and exceptional. So I thank them for one of the reasons, if not one of the highest priority reason for our budgets being so overwhelmingly, I think the word is unanimously, approved in both Northborough and Southborough, and also the continued support of the parents in our community in the work that we do.
Paul?
So, but let's be clear here. I mean, it's because of the work that you guys do in being as transparent as you can be to the people that run the finances of both towns, going out of your way over and over and over again to kind of seek feedback, provide them information, the way Tom kind of drives his department heads to make sure that they're not asking for anything that's not necessary. They're aware of the fiscal responsibilities that they have as well, and, you know, as it would be really remiss for us not to acknowledge your internal work as well in making this all happen. We've had a couple of just wonderful budget years vis-a-vis kind of getting it approved at the town meetings, and that's right square on your shoulders and Cheryl's shoulders and Tom's shoulders. There's little doubt in my mind, as somebody who's been sitting on the budget subcommittees for several years now, that effort has paid dividends over and over again. So nicely done.
Patty?
I'd like to echo Paul's sentiments. I feel the same way, and also I can't speak, I was not at Southborough's town meeting, but I was at Northborough's, and you did a great job with the presentation, and thank you.
And I'd also like to third those comments, because being with Patty and also Lynn at the Northborough Town meeting was in the presentation that John Cordair gave. And even in his presentation, he talked about the rapport of the administration, of Christine working with him. And I know as chairperson at different times talking to Christine, she has been out of the office at different times or on the phone talking to both town managers. So it's part of that good rapport going back and forth and working together. And also with Tom Mead, I mean, we go back to, I think, the end of September, October, when the budgets were just being formulated, asking the staff for what they need. And also Cheryl Levesque for the wonderful job she does with the business department and getting all those warrants and everything out there. I mean, it was just so smooth enough, and even going to the financial planning meetings and appropriations, you could go all day Saturday, but it was just wonderful. And it's nice to see that everybody working together, because these times when we don't have a lot of funding, we have to work together at it. So I would like to thank you, everybody from the administration and the budget office and Tom's, for doing the great job that you have. So please, it's a joint effort, and it came out with great success. Paul?
And we'd be remiss not mentioning the bargaining units as well, and their willingness to kind of be aware of their impact on the taxpayers. We, you know, a new contract this year could have got much more contentious. It could have cost more money than we were willing to spend. They were terrific as well, and they were good partners with us.
Absolutely.
Okay, going on, next we have the Handbook for Students and Parents, 2017-2018.
As I mentioned earlier, Ms. Mead can chime in or acknowledge and verify or validate. We have no changes to propose from this year's handbook. It is a year Happily so, where not a lot of new legislation has muddied the waters in terms of our ability to move the handbook forward. I mentioned earlier during the guidance presentation that there may be a memorandum coming should there be some changes related to the class rank, because that is contained within the handbook that we would certainly bring to the committee. But at this point, except for date changes and minor editing requirements because of the year changes and dates and so forth, there's no specific language changes, right, Tom, that are moving forward at this time. Because we do have the policy online, it's a lot easier to make those kind of changes should they come about through the year. It's not uncommon for the state to decide to institute a mandate around, one disciplinary area or another, and so those things are always possible, but with the policies online, it's a lot easier to be able to communicate that information and send it out to everyone should that be the case. There are a couple things that have been pending for a couple years that we've been waiting for the legislator branch to take action on to give us greater clarity and the language to support the changes that they're proposing around discipline and various trainings. And so once that comes into place, we might have to communicate that out through some other means, most likely through a communication or online. But at this point, no substantive changes are being proposed. And I turn it over to Mr. Mead for specific questions if some come up about the handbook.
So, Patty? I just, why is it that we're not going to remove class rank from the 2017-2018 handbook?
Well, what we're trying to do is, class rank's already been disclosed, obviously, to the current seniors and also to the current juniors. So the next class that would be informed of their rank is the class of 2018. 19, my bad. 2019.
So it'd be next year's handbook.
Because they'll be juniors next year in its seats.
Right, so it's already, so the juniors already know their class rank this year.
Oh.
So it wouldn't be until 2018, 2019.
Oh.
So that's our first opportunity, so to speak, with the class of 2019.
But they get it when they're juniors, and 2017, 2018, class of 2019 will be juniors.
But they don't have their class rank yet. They never got their class rank yet. So the policy doesn't take place until 2019, correct?
It won't be till next year when they're juniors at the midway point in the year, which is when they would get class rank. But we're saying that they won't get it if we go ahead with this proposal.
So,
Hasn't been passed yet.
so can we pass it tonight and make the change for the 2017-2018 handbook?
Christine?
I think the guidance department
They need another.
did mention that this was an initial presentation this evening, and that they wanted to go back and revisit that after the school committee had an opportunity to hear the presentation. I think, again, one of the opportunities that we have is to bring that document with greater finality of sort of rollout to the committee when they feel that it's ready to include it into the handbook. Oftentimes, changes to the handbook, when already approved by the school committee, come forward in the form of a communication to the parents, maybe even through a presentation, rather than just, putting it in a handbook where they read it without any backup or any sort of open forum and dialogue. So I think taking the lead from the guidance department as they continue to go through this process and better vet and more fully vet the language that they want to use to move it forward might be behind not including it right at this point, because it can certainly be added at any point next year, given that it's not really affecting next year's class. That would just be, I think, part of the conversation.
Makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Update, next agenda item is update on the principal search.
Greg, do you want me, Matt, good? Greg is chairing the second search. The posting has closed, And the screening of the applications will take place May 1st. Anticipated interview dates for the second round is May 10th and May 12th. Composition of the screening committee has not changed.
Correct.
And so we will continue to update the committee as we move forward.
Paul?
So, reopening the search, it leads me to wonder, what's Plan B? If for some reason, we don't get someone before, the end of the year or the beginning of all of the activities for next year.
Tom has to stay then.
We've got Mr. Reed's retiring, I kind of looked at him, and I see Mr. Lawton is also retiring. I mean, the management of this whole plant gets pretty thin pretty fast if we don't have someone. So is there a Plan B under discussion?
I think we have a plan through the entire alphabet, at least in terms of some of our conversations, and certainly, I think Mr. Mead already has some vacation booked somewhere, right, after June 30th. But obviously, that is something that we've had some conversations about. We're optimistic about the second search. 1 month makes a big difference in terms of the applicant pool, but there are many possibilities. One of them is an interim appointment, which with no date certain in terms of when that interim would end, so that we could continue the search process. Oftentimes, if there is an interim that's appointed, it could be for a shorter period of time than 1 full year, so that we can continue the search process and maybe make an appointment by January or sooner than that. Again, a search is very different from 1 month to the next, believe it or not, in terms of getting applications in. But that is a common practice, and we would perhaps pursue that path. We are also sort of simultaneously pursuing the interim pool if that becomes necessary.
Good, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on the principal search? Okay, next item is approval of the 2018 school committee meeting dates, which was in your packet. And you can tell, like in October and in September, some of the changes were made, and they are asterisked to let you know why. So we need any comment on this? Okay. Any questions from board members? Is there a motion to, Paul?
If I could, yeah, the only real question I have is the town meeting in, say, in Southborough. I mean, there was a chance that last night Southborough might not have got around to okaying our budget. And we kind of need to be back there again tonight in case somebody asked a question. And yet we have this scheduled. I mean, should we think about trying to figure out a different schedule for April because of town meetings and the possibility of them stretching and stepping on our schedule, or
when is
that and just can't come up with one? And
I don't think we thought about it because this year presented itself as sort of a unique year. Southborough's always held their town meetings prior to the week before April vacation. So that was a very short change that was actually precipitated by the town. And we did receive a guarantee from both town administrators that they would do their gosh darn best to see that the budgets in both communities were taken up for consideration and vote in the first night, and that did happen. I'm not anticipating that that's something that's going to happen next year, but we will be having conversations with both towns to make sure they have set their dates. One of the things that can change is our date, probably much easier said on our end, changing a school committee date, than in fact on the town side.
do we know when next year's town meetings are in Northborough, Southborough yet?
No, I'm not sure what's
I'm
out
pretty sure that Northborough's bylaws stipulate it has to be on the fourth Monday of April.
So Southborough's is normally like
Before
before vacation, but from the study that they put up last night, it does look like they're going to keep it. I mean, maybe not,
Right.
but it did look like they were going to try to keep it later, just for attendance reasons. I don't know. That should come out soon, though, I would think.
Right. It'll be interesting to have a conversation with Mr. Purple after the conclusion of the Southborough Town Meeting to see his thoughts on whether or not that worked for them this year. Because I know they were talking about a couple other options as well as they were moving towards changing this date.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that's set, but I can assure you that that's going to be a conversation that we have, because this was a very challenging week. And obviously, when you're at town meeting, you want to be completely focused and quite coherent if you're having a presentation. Both meetings did run past midnight or pretty close to it. And that was a concern of ours as well. So we're going to be having conversations with them through the superintendent's office, and then I think whatever that outcome is, bring it forward. We'll have time to change if we get some clarity this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to accept the school committee meeting dates as presented? Paul?
I would move that we accept the school committee meeting dates for the 2017-2018 school year as presented.
Second.
Patty, made second. Any further discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion on the table? And it passes unanimous. Thank you. And now on to the superintendent's report to the committee.
Madam Chair, in living color, once again, is the principal's report. And I know Tom is here to present all the wonderful things that have been happening on campus here at Algonquin.
Thank you.
Wow,
It's been a
big
very
one.
busy month. Starting off with last month, which was Student Art Month, all over the land here, and we certainly had good representation from our school once again. There were art shows that were competitive and juried. Those would apply to the Boston show at the State Transportation Building. Also, a similar show held at about the same time was the Worcester Art Museum, where our students' arts was also exhibited. So a great support for the arts in the state of Massachusetts. We're certainly very thankful for the opportunities in these kinds of events for our students to exhibit and display their art. In fact, we have in the person of Max Donahue, a member of this contingent that was so honored at the Northborough Town Library back in March. And I don't know, Max, do you want to talk a little bit about that and about your
Sure.
sterling colleagues and peers in the art program?
Yeah, so it's been a busy month for art. In the picture right there, that was at the Northborough Library where we set up a show of artwork from all the different art classes. So we had graphic design kids and kids in Art 1 all the way up to AP, which is really cool to see all the different the levels of art and all the work that everyone's doing. And that picture is the AP art class, and we're all really close. So that was really nice for all of us to be there and to get to see all of our work out at the library.
Thanks, Max. Let's see, moving on to the next page. A little report on the Science Olympiad. This year they went to two different competitions. They went to MIT as a warm-up, kind of a spring training sort of thing, MIT, and then they competed at FSU. Around here we call that Framingham State University, and did very well. Very well. There's 22 events, and so each team has to figure out how many events they're going to enter and how they're going to do it. Typically, our kids go off in 2- and 3-person teams, and so most of our students who are attend for the full day, and they do several different events. So it's a great hands-on experience. We're always housed by virtue of the alphabet with Acton Boxborough, so we always give our due respect towards AB, and then we go out and see how we do. But at any rate, Ken Wadman and Nate Largess are both physics teachers here at the high school, and they are advisors for that program. Further down, accolades to several of our students who competed in the Letters About Literature contest. With one student, Giancarlo Coelho, grade 10, sophomore, received honors, and he'll be honored at the State House for that particular thing. But kudos to all of those students who entered this contest. They are we're writing about the impressions and the impact that literature has on them. So very, very deeply personal accounts of the writing experience on their part. Let's see. DECA is coming up here. DECA had quite an event. First time ever, they did a networking event at the school. And they had a panel of guests to talk about their experiences in the work world and the business life that they lead. Also, there was, and understandably so, there was a good session afterwards, after the formal presentation was made, for the students to have a chance to do actual networking. So they were schooled on that, so to speak. They were prompted, and they did a wonderful job of mixing and moving around the room and that sort of thing. So a great start to what I hope is an annual event here to emphasize the importance of networking, which is so important when we get on with careers and when we get into our business experiences. So important to have a solid network out there to help you along, and also maybe to find yet another good job. Bringing the 60s to life. I mentioned this, Mr. Hansen, he's an art teacher. Max knows him well. But he's also not really a child. He was a teenager of the 1960s. And so he is a guest lecturer in Steve Godbout's class to talk about the decade of the 60s. And I've been invited for 7 years to go to this thing. I finally made it. And even when I was unknown to me, I got called on to verify a few of Mr. Hansen's stories. To a certain extent I could, but I didn't go too far down that road, of course. But at any rate, this is a great session. The kids were really animated in it. But I think it's just a good example of the collaboration that our faculty has. They know each other. They call on each other to do different things. This is not unusual for a member of one department to be working with another department, that sort of thing. And that happens a little bit later or somewhere else in my report when I'm talking about the program in our business curriculum, where we're using some access that we have to a news source that helps our students to understand the categories, if you will, of news, and how, especially in this age of social media and a bombardment of a whole lot of information that's coming at us on a news cycle that's 24/7. This is a terrific experience for them to have that early experience. These are freshmen that are going through this in the Computer Essentials course. Just to be able to have a guided tour of all kinds of different things. It's very, very current. It relies quite a bit on the very latest in social media, that sort of thing. So when I was in the class, they were talking about leggings being worn by young ladies who were trying to get onto a United Airlines flight. So that was the beginning of a difficult spell for United Airlines. But it was talked about, from this perspective, right in the classroom setting itself. But it is a collaboration between the business curriculum and also the social studies curriculum. They're also using this particular application and pilot, and we've been granted another year to use it, so we'll expand it even more. We have a public speaking course, of course, and they invite speakers in, and we had some notable speakers in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Susan Warnick stopped in. The network connection is with our teacher, Jen Souza. Jen Souza also went to Natick High School like Susan did. She was also a part of the debate team, and so when we happened to go as our news, speech, and debate team to Natick for a competition, a connection was made there, and the result of it was Susan Warnick came out to talk to our students in the Black Box Theater, and very, very stimulating, very interesting conversation she had with them. And Senator Ann Goby was the guest speaker in public speaking class, and again, networked by Steve Godbout. He has connections at the State House in the work that he's been doing for AEDs, and we've talked about that in the past too, but he chanced upon Senator Goby and invited her to come to our school, too. So it's not always about going off to field trips outside. It's often about bringing people in, very distinctive and distinguished people, to come in and talk to our classes about different topics. So, again, a very raucous and fun March and April that we've been going through.
Tom, thank you for your report. And one that you didn't highlight, but I read it here on the next to last page. Down at the bottom was that you were talking about the teachers working collaboratively together, but you had students going down from the high school, going down to Z in Lincoln, and they did Destination Imagination, and your students were coaching 2 of the teams. And it said also that they took 3rd place in the states, recently, and they're going to be coached by Genevieve Cox and Catherine Dawson, and they're going to be going to the Globals finals, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is terrific, and it's nice, return on the investment, if you will, but I think our students are very interested in working with younger students in the middle school and in the elementary schools as well. This is a great example of that. But that sort of thing happens in a lot of different cases. We have students that come back to us to help us with different programs. Notably this year, the robotics effort was greatly aided by a graduate of the class of 2012. So we're a big community, and we're very, very aware of the connections and the networking that we are using that enhances the opportunities and the stimulation that our students get.
It's nice to have the younger kids to have mentors in the high school and
Absolutely.
to help out. That really is. That's great. Thank you very much. Any comments from board members? Okay. Next is the FY17 monthly general fund expenditure report.
It's always hard to follow Tom's reports when then we migrate to the expenditure report. So I guess it's always good to realize that each and every month we review a budget that continues to support all the wonderful things that are taking place at the high school. So that's the best transition I can get from the highs of the hearing about the students' excellence to looking at our financial state in the expenditure report for March, which we would ask that you vote to approve until audited.
Paul?
So I move that we vote to approve until audited the regional school district's expenditure report and statements of revenue as provided.
Patty?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the table? It passes unanimous. Thank you.
Again, Cheryl, thank you for all the good work. Also included in your packets, again, a vote to approve until audited is the revenue report. Charlie, I don't know if you want to mention anything about that, or just, I know it's...
We're tracking appropriately at this given time.
I'm doing well with that, so thank you for that.
And we need a vote to approve until audited.
Thank you,
For the revenue report.
He did
I
vote.
think I said.
He did
Okay,
vote.
there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
The Celtics are tipping off right now.
Paul, you've been very patient tonight. I can speed up this budget priorities. We can put this aside. It's just distribution only. The budget calendar, hard to believe. We hit the last date on the calendar. And soon we'll be starting it anew. So that's for distribution only. Enrollments are in your packet. No significant changes, but continuing to monitor this very closely. As we know, changes do occur, particularly over the summer. That's in your packet for review. And also, the FY 2018 budget, which was approved last night, 2 points of interest. Earlier mentioned, a shout out to the teachers associations. You heard in both Northborough and Southborough that a big concern is healthcare costs and only going in one direction, that's rising. And as we are a regional school district that operates like a town, we negotiated for plan design changes separately with our associations. I was pleased to be told as I walked out of a room at the high school this afternoon that it was our plan design changes passed unanimously, and that has allowed us to capture somewhere between a 3 to a 5% savings in our healthcare costs in the budget. So thank you. Good work by all, and appreciate the work that we've done with the Teachers Association. Again, they too are mindful of the fiscal reality and wanting to make sure as much money of the budget goes into the classroom for our kids. So we're really happy with that.
So those plan design changes result in savings off of this budget?
FY18.
So could we, at maybe next meeting or something, vote to set aside some of it for OPEB or something, or at least talk about it?
Interestingly enough, OPEB is on the agenda for next month. Our new treasurer is getting ready to come prepared with a statement of her findings since joining us in January, and we're getting some OPEB language. There are a couple of options, and we want to be able to present that to the group. I would caution that we haven't begun to expend the FY 2018 budget, and as much as we would like to begin populating a line item in the budget that we potentially could vote in the next month, there were also some discussions about if we had some savings, could we do a few other things with some of those .2 FTEs that we were not able to fund this year. And so we do have some staffing requests that we were going to try to be mindful and watchful over. One of them particularly was the ELO position that had originally come forward as a 1.0, and we captured that as a 0.5 in this year's budget. So I too hope that we're going to be able to set aside some money, but just would caution the school committee of being too premature in that, given the other staffing issues that we had. Keeping a good thought about all of those possibilities.
Okay, going on to the agenda, old business, there isn't any at this time. Policy development.
You were speedy today,
Oh.
Madam Chair.
Well, I'm
Two quick
getting-
notes on this. Regional
Okay.
transportation is still in the governor's budget as 100% going for budget this year, if it passed. You know, anything better than what we have now, even though if it's not 100%, and it's still moving forward as an increase in circuit breaker. So those, in addition to some of those other savings, may yield us some other possibilities. So I just wanted to add those few points.
That's all right. Next is policy development and/or distribution. We have none at this time. At this time, it's now audience sharing. Does the audience have anything that they would like to? Sure, come on up. If you could just make sure you have a microphone and identify who you are.
Yeah, take my seat, and I'll move down.
Hi, my name is Elijah Cohen-Gordon. This
Beck
is
Marner.
Yeah, and we're two transgender students here at Algonquin. I'm currently a sophomore, and Beck is currently a senior. And today we want to propose some more gender-neutral and transgender accommodations. I want to start with I was a student at Melican, and I transitioned in the middle of 8th grade. And Melican was amazing, and they were very open and accepting. But an issue I did find was an issue with the gender-neutral bathrooms. The same issue here at Algonquin. The only gender-neutral bathrooms we have here are in the nurse's office. And it is, I have to say, very dehumanizing to only be allowed into a certain bathroom because people are too scared of you in another bathroom when the only thing you've done is be yourself. Thankfully, here at Algonquin, I'm allowed to use the boys' bathroom, and that has been an amazing experience. I feel very welcomed and accepted here. So I want to help other students who don't have it as lucky. I have very supportive parents, and I'm very thankful to be able to have had hormones and surgery so young. And other people who don't have it as lucky as me, I want to be able to help them. So Beck and I are proposing more gender-neutral bathrooms in which what we would do is the alcoves here at Algonquin. I was talking with some teachers proposing that you keep the two boys and girls restrooms, then you have the two teachers restrooms, maybe proposing that one be a teacher unisex restroom and proposing that one be a unisex restroom for bathrooms, for students. Yes, and I talked to student council. We got A-OK from student council. We met with Mr. Mead, gave him a lot of reading. Mr. Mead, he seemed very happy with it.
I'm still reading.
Still reading. we have a lot. And we're also proposing more gender-neutral options, such as the gender-neutral marker. We have M or F right now. We are also proposing N for non-binary or neutral. We are proposing teaching the use of they, them pronouns as a singular pronoun, which has recently been improved by the Associated Press as a gender-neutral pronoun grammatically correct. I was talking with my cousin, who is a PhD professor of linguistics at University of Toronto, who says they, them pronouns as a singular pronoun is 100% grammatically correct, so teaching how to use they, them pronouns. We're also asking for more education on transgender and non-binary identities, which I know the school here has, teachers get educated by, I think it's GLSEN that comes in and does LGBT training, which is amazing, so more training on transgender and non-binary identities. And just making it easier for kids who can't be out at home to be out here at school, to be able to present themselves at school, to be safe at school, because it's found when kids are able to present themselves as their gender identity, they perform better in school. Another thing that's important is that when kids aren't allowed to use the restroom that aligns with their gender identity, kids often end up trying to avoid eating at school so they don't have to use the restroom, and then that leads to lower school performance and lower health. And to concerns that gender-neutral bathrooms may lead to more assault, there has been no actual evidence to prove that, no reported cases of students assaulting each other in a bathroom. And I just want to know that it's very near and dear to my heart as a transgender activist. It's my life goal to become an activist. So far, I've been featured in the Boston Globe for helping and the Worcester Telegram and Gazette, and I want to continue on this mission to help other trans youth, and I think Algonquin is a great first step as to where we can improve. So.
Thank you. And the audience sharing is for us to take the information from you, so I appreciate for both of you being here tonight and to present this to us. Thank you very much.
Do I have permission to pass out any information that we have?
Sure, definitely.
Thank you.
So, unfortunately, I did hand out a lot of it to teachers, so we're running a little short on information tonight, but I have information. I have a handout with my email on it, so you can contact me if you need anything. And Mr. Mead has everything as well, because yes. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And while they're passing that information out, thank you very much for all the board members. Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything to share tonight?
I'd just like to make note that 3 of those faces are actually members of the Worcester State University cohort here tonight doing their homework as part of their leadership training.
Wow.
The 21 folks that are in the program have popped up here and there at different school committee meetings, and I think that's part of an assignment. And I don't know what the conversations are like after you leave here, but I think I might pop in to try to figure out what that all means. Thank you for continuing to be part of that program.
Thank you very much.
This one? No, there's
No,
more.
oh, okay, sorry.
A lot of stuff from the next.
Thank you.
I got 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And going around to the board members, starting, Mr. Mead, you did a great job with your principal's report, so thank you very much. Do you have anything else to offer tonight?
I guess I'm out.
It's a nice, concise report, thank you. Anything else from the board members? Going around with Barbara? Dave? Kathy? Patty? Lynn? Paul?
So just one thing from me, I believe the elections are in the next week or two, and as a result, in our next meeting, we'll actually be choosing a new chair. And just take a moment to say thanks, you've done a nice job this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll do better if I can get you out to see the game, the Celtics game. And just tagging on to Paul, yes, the new chair will be elected at the next meeting. And it will be, as the policy and as we've done, it will be, the chairpersonship will go to Southborough to pick the next 3 officers. Okay? Thank you. And it's been a pleasure to serve as your chairperson this year. I've learned an awful lot, as usual. That's what I expect to do, so thank you very much, and thanks to the administration. Lynn?
I also, I guess we're going to be going to our recognition, so we moved it from the beginning, but I just wanted to thank Patty and Dave and Barbara for serving on the committee with us. Each of you have added a unique perspective to our conversations, our discussions, and it's, you know, you've been great, great board members and very dedicated and passionate. So I appreciate that. It's not easy to step away.
If I may just say, it's been a pleasure working with all of you, a group that works together so well. And I just wanted you all to know that.
No, I too would like to say that it's been a great experience these 6 years. It's just been, you know, meeting all you new people and working with you and the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and Cheryl. It's really been.
It might be your last time.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the next step.
Yeah.
Okay, going on to the next one, we have personnel. We have personnel, distribution of the personnel report that is in your packet. And communications are the distribution of the FY16.
The audit, I believe you received this electronically, but we do have hard copies of the information we reviewed last month from Scanlon and Associates. And we do have tonight the management letter in hard copy, the report on the examination of the basic financial statements, and the schedule of expenditure and federal awards in hard copy if you'd like to take one with you. As we discussed, all of them came through quite successfully through the audit process. So they're here in a box, and please take them because the box is heavy and we can lighten the load on the way back.
And there should also be the distribution of the harbinger. Okay. And approval of bills and payrolls that we'll do at the conclusion of the meeting. Agenda items for next month, we have the school choice public hearing and vote, update on athletics, the naming committee update, also the election of officers, as Paul has mentioned. Is there any other items?
I think we said earlier the treasurer was going to provide some information on OPEB options for us as well.
Christine Tague will be here just to provide that and a general update.
And before we close out, we'll go back to our first item, which was special recognition. Christine.
Well, I think we've begun the celebration, the unfortunate celebration and the retirement of 3 of our school committee members. As superintendent, I would like to say that it has been a joy to work with Barbara O'Mara and David Ruger and Patty Crest for the duration of their time on the committee. I've always said it's easier to say hello and welcome than it is to say goodbye and best of luck. And I think we're in that circumstance this evening. So we do have a few, besides the cake, parting gifts and recognitions for you. And Joan, I don't know if you... We have from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, starting with years of service, and I believe that's Mr. Ruger on this committee, 2 terms, right? 2011 to present.
From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincere congratulations to Dr. David J. Ruger, C. Ruger, in recognition of your dedicated service to the town of Southborough as a member of the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. And this is presented to you on this 26th day of April 2017 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by the Speaker of the House, Robert A. DiLallo, and offered by your State Representative, Carolyn Dykema.
Oh, you're in and I'm out. It's the collaborative work that we do.
Both.
Do you want to come around this way?
Yeah.
So, David, will you join us in center stage this evening? Center stage. And this is, I think, the highest
symbol of recognition that we provide in the district. It is a symbol that is most known to everyone, recognizing the quality and the commitment of education in our school community. It is a crystal apple. Crystal is one unique element, and I think it is safe to say that your uniqueness and spirit has brought joy to our work, which is often difficult.
Thank you.
And something that you no longer have to much care about on Wednesdays, what time is the meeting? Are we having policy first, or is the meeting starting on time? So this is in recognition of your dedication and service to the students of the Northborough-Southborough Regional School District, 2011, 2017. How quickly time passes, and now you'll be able to tell that by this gift presented by the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee.
Thank you again. I certainly will miss these meetings. I really will. I know a lot of people who are here I will miss very much too. So. But I'll come back and visit.
Wait,
I will come to meetings. I will come to meetings occasionally.
Thank you. Thank you for being always such a good representative at the annual conferences with MASC. We really appreciate everything and all your wisdom that you brought back to and educated us who were not able to attend. But you've been a valuable member of this committee, and please stay in touch through emails. Let us know any issues you have.
I will.
Thank you. Okay, and to Barbara. So Barbara, would you like to come up?
Okay.
Wow, you have all these tips.
So Barbara, this is presented to you today from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincere congratulations to Barbara O'Mara in recognition of your dedicated service. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all your endeavors. It's given this 26th day of April 2017 at the State House, Boston, Massachusetts, signed by State Representative Val Martin and by Robert A. Del Rio, Speaker of the House.
And in recognition of the dedication and service to the students of the Northborough-Southborough Regional School District, 2014-2017, presented by the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee.
And Barbara, I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done to make even myself a school committee member. As even today, I sent you an article that was in Education Week. You made me think twice about the Common Core and what was happening in my teaching with it, and to make me a better teacher and a better educational leader. So I'd like to thank you, and I always look forward to seeing your little yellow bug in the town. So, and stay in touch as you have been.
I will, thank you.
And good luck to you, all your future endeavors and your grandchildren, of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Patty. Well, I'm a lucky member because I still will have the honor of working with Patty in the Northborough KA. Patty, this is presented to you from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincere congratulations to you, Patty A. Kress, in recognition of your dedicated service. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this 26th day of April 2017 at the State House in Boston, Massachusetts, signed by Harold Naughton, our state representative, and Robert A. DeLeo, Speaker of the House.
And to Patricia A. Kress, in recognition of your dedication and service to the students of the Northborough-Southborough Regional School District 2014-2017, presented by the Northborough-Southborough Regional School Committee. And I, too, am grateful that I will be seeing you just next Wednesday.
And I also have a student here until 2022, so.
Just in time for the next school improvement plan, so we're going to sign you up right now.
I'll be around, thank you.
Patty, thank you for everything, for your leadership and all the subcommittees that you have served on. And as with Barbara, Dave, and yourself, just because you're not a school committee member does not mean that you can't serve on the committees. We always need community representatives, and we need to hear your voice. And both, all three of you, you're valuable voices and the words of wisdom that you have to offer. So thank you very much to the three of you. You'll be sorely missed, but hope we can still stay in touch in some way. Thank you. Okay, so is there, and so we continue on with the cake, and maybe we can say 3 pieces for the faculty members that wanted to guidance counselor. Is there a motion to adjourn? Paul?
I move that we adjourn this meeting of the Northborough Southborough Regional School Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Patty. All in favor of adjourning? It's unanimous, so we'll close out. Thank you.